In this lesson, we are going to create a very basic scene, and it's going to be like really simple. I just want to have a simple start, and we will add more things through the lesson. So we are going to make Three.js work the most simplest way possible, without bundler, without modules, without dependency. If you don't know about those, do not worry, we are going to use that, but later. Let's try to focus just on making work Three.js work. Making work Three.js. And we are going to create a JavaScript and an HTML file, and that's all, just 2 files. So let's create those base files. So we are going to create first index.html. There is no starter file for this project because it's just an empty folder. So you can just start by creating a folder where you will put all the lessons. Try to organize yourself, like create a folder for each lesson. In the next lessons, I will provide you with a starter, but this one is just an empty folder, so it would make no sense to provide you a folder. So I did already create it. For me, it will be right here. So as you can see, I have a number and a name for each lesson, and it's inside my exercise folder. But you can just put inside the 03 folder and put your thing. It's because I have the final version and stuff like that. So this is my folder, and we are going to create some stuff in here. What I always recommend is not to create files using your Explorer or your Finder. Finder is for Mac, Explorer is for Windows. What I recommend is to always use your code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, as we said in a previous lesson. You can use anything you want. But what I recommend is to always drag and drop the folder so that you open it inside Visual Studio Code. And right now you can see on the side the files of this folder. Obviously it's empty, but I'm going to create the files using this part here. It's just to avoid bugs and to see hidden files. All right. So you can just click on this icon or do right click new file. So it's up to you and your code editor. If you want to create them inside the Finder or the Explorer for Windows, just do it. And you're going to create one called index.html. No surprise here. It's going to be really simple. You can put some basic code in here. I can use like Visual Studio Code emmet to do that. So as you can see, I just put a exclamation mark. I think we say exclamation mark, and press enter, and it creates something like that. I can change the name to 03 basic scene, or you can just copy the code, scroll a little on this page, and we have the code. It's not important because it's just JavaScript. It's just HTML, simple page. And then we can add the JavaScript. So I'm going to make a link by using the script tag, and I'm going to provide the source, and it's going to be inside the same folder. So I can just write ./script.js. You can remove the ./ but I like to keep it so it's kind of logical. All right, it's in the same folder. This is why I let the ./. You can save, and then you can create the JavaScript file. So let's go. I will create the script.js file. So script.js file. And in here, I'm going to simply write, to make sure that my JavaScript is working, hello 3.js, like that. I created my 2 files. What I can do is hide the sidebar, and I will zoom in a little so you can see more clearly. I think I didn't do any mistake. Anyway, we're going to test that. You can open it, so you can use Chrome, Firefox. I don't recommend Safari and Internet Explorer, but let's use Chrome. So I will just open it that way. I get a web page because I have nothing inside the page, but I'm going to open the console. So it's the developer tools. So you have the same thing on Firefox. To open the developer tools, if you are on Windows, you can press F12. If you are on Mac, you can press Command, Option, or Alt. So it's the same thing, Option and Alt. Like that. Maybe it doesn't look the same, maybe it's white, maybe it's on the side, but it's exactly the same thing. You can change that in the options right here and choose the theme here. So it's the little gear here, and you change the theme, and you can change the position with the little the 3 points here, and you can choose to put it on the side you want, maybe another window. It's up to you. This is not the goal of the lesson. So we'll just put it there. So open it. Other ways of opening your DevTools, if you are using Chrome, you can click there, go to More Tools, and click on Developer Tools. And here we will see the shortcuts. All right. Finally, you can also right-click in anywhere on the page and click on Inspect. It will change the tab, but we are going to go to the Console tab. All right. Always keep your console open because, well, if you do a mistake, you will see this mistake here. So always keep this console open. How to load 3GS. So we have our, as you can see, yeah, by the way, we have hello 3GS here, meaning that our JavaScript work. If it doesn't work, refresh again, still nothing. Make sure you did save the HTML file and the JavaScript file. Make sure you did load it this way, you didn't do any mistake here. Watch the logs, maybe there is an error. Make sure that you you open and close the script. Well, this is just basic JavaScript and HTML, so make sure everything is working fine and get back to the video. So how do we load 3GS? There are many ways to load 3GS, so it's up to you, but because we want to keep this lesson as simple as possible, we are going to use a script tag. Just like we loaded our script that way, we are going to load 3GS that way. So let's go to the 3GS website. So I put the link as always in the links panel. So it's bottom right, you have a small button, click on it, it will open the links panel. And here you can see, maybe the page will be slightly different for you, but you should have a download button on the left. Click on download and it will download 3GS. Maybe wait a few minutes. As you can see, it's huge. Do not worry, we are not going to use all of this. We just need one small file from that zip file. Yeah, by the way, it's a compressed file, so it's a zip file. You will have to uncompress, uncompress it. So right now it did download, so wait for the download to finish, obviously. Because I'm on Mac, I can just double click on it and it will just unzip like that. If you're on Windows, maybe you have to do like a right click, extract somewhere, you have to choose where, and you will get a similar result. So I can remove this zip file now that I have my unzipped version. And we are going to take only one thing inside of that, and it's going to be inside the build folder. And those are the JavaScript file, like standalone JavaScript files. You have three choices. You have the 3JS, and this is the like a raw code, and you can see that it's huge. All right, there are thousands and thousands of lines of code that are being done through the years by Mr. Do, by the community, by so many people. So yes, you have everything in here. It's a lot. You also have the same version, but minified. All right, it's exactly the same thing, but it's smaller because it's all compressed. And you also have a module version. It's for using modules. We are not going to use modules, so don't use this one. We can go for the min file, all right? In later lesson, we are going to do things quite differently, so it's not that important, but let's go for the 3.min.js file. And we just put it on your folder. I know it's better to organize, like create a script folder, stuff like that, but right now we are going to have only 3 files. Your HTML, your script, and 3GS. It's not that important. Let's move forward. Obviously, we need to load it, and we can do something like that. But I did a huge mistake right here. If you are used to your JavaScript and loading libraries like that, you probably saw it. Do not load it after your script. Obviously, you have to do it before your script, like that. All right. First, you load the libraries in order to be able to use it on your script. All right. Make sure that you load 3GS before loading your script. It's very important. So I did that. Always save your HTML. Make sure there is if you're using VS Code, there is like a huge, if I do a change, I did save. So as you can see, there is a huge dot, meaning that you didn't save. So save the file. All right, let's move forward. How can we use that library? So we did load it. We can check the result. We save, no differences, but still right now we have access to 3JS. Because we loaded the library. We have access to a variable named 3, and it's uppercase, and you have to write it in uppercase. Most of the classes, because 3JS, we use classes from 3JS, will be available inside that variable. So let's go, we can just check it. Instead of doing a console log hello 3JS, we're going to do a console log just 3, and it's in uppercase, very important. Do not mess this part. We save. We can refresh the page, and as you can see, we get access to an object. You see that it's an object because there are curly brackets. Curly bracket? Yeah, I think we say curly bracket. you can open that object and look at those classes. Wow. There's a lot of classes. Those are all the Three.js classes, at least the Three.js classes available in that variable. So it's not accurate. It's not all the classes. We see that in later lesson that we have some classes missing, and for good reasons. We'll talk about that in due time. So yeah, let's move forward. It seems that we have access to all the classes from Three.js. It's time to create our first scene. Finally, let's go. We need 4 elements to create like the minimum scene. To start, we need, well, the scene. Okay, we'll see more about that. It will contain objects. We are going to create an object because if there is nothing to see, well, we won't be able to see anything. So it's we need to add objects to that scene. We need a camera and we need a renderer. We are going to talk about each of those points and create them as we go. So first we need to create what we call a scene. A scene, it's kind of just a container. It's like the set of your movie set. All right, you will put object, actors, you will put a camera, stuff like that in that scene. You will also put lights in that scene. All right, let's create this scene, and to do that we do const. You can choose any name. I will choose scene, which is kind of logical. Equal new, and I will use my first Three.js class, which is 3.scene. Like that. Make sure you're not doing any mistake. You can say refresh. If you have no errors, it's great. If you have an error, pause the video, try to fix the error, and get back to the video. By the way, be careful. Maybe you have an error, but it's not a mistake you did. It might be plugins. All right, be careful with that. I have a lot of students having this issue, like I have a problem, I have an error, but it's not their fault. It's just one of their plugins creating errors. So make sure maybe it's just one of your plugins. Make sure of that. Next, so we have our scene. We're going to add a lot of things inside that scene. We want to create objects, and I have so much to tell you about creating objects, but we have to do like baby steps. Just create one simple thing. We can create primitive geometries like cubes, cylinders, spheres, stuff like that. We can import models. So you create a models using a 3D software, or you download it from, I don't know, any website, and you import it in Three.js. We can create particles, we can create lights, and we can create so many things. Yes, but we are going to start with a very simple red cube. Let's start simple. To create a visible object, we call that a mesh. This is important. From now, I will be talking about meshes in plural. A mesh, well, you can see I put the links to all the classes we are going to use. As always, check the links panel. And as you can see, this is a mesh, and you always have an examples. When I told you that the Three.js documentation is great, yeah, you can see that you have examples on almost every classes, so it's so simple. You can just take the examples and put them in your code, and it should work. So to create a visible object, which is what we want to do, we want to create a visible red cube in the center of the scene. We need to create a mesh. This mesh is a combination of a geometry. So the geometry is kind of the shape. This is what we talked about in the previous lesson when I was talking about having points that will create triangles. Well, this is the geometry. This is the shape. So we need to provide a shape, but also a material. And the material will tell the color of that shape. So the geometry will tell those vertices and those triangles are right here. And once we provide a material, it will be like, it has to be red. And if it's different, like, I don't know, there is a light over there and I want this material to react to light, I will provide another material, and this other material will tell that this part is brighter than this part because there is a light over there, so it can be really complex. It will be all handled by Three.js, but for now, we want a red cube, like just one red cube. So let's go. We are going to create a box geometry because the cube is kind of a box, but with the width, depth, and height at the same size. And a mesh basic material. So let's go. So we have our scene. You know what? You can add some comments if you need. So it will be probably too much, but I'm going to create like a red cube like that. And to create this red cube, I have to provide a geometry. So I will create a new variable. I name it geometry, and I will do new 3 box geometry. So I access the box geometry from the three variable. And by the way, you can access those. As you can see, there is a box geometry here. And look at this example. So cool. You can have so many examples and you can tweak those examples. Look at that. So cool. Anyway, my box geometry, I will provide three parameters, sorry. And it's going to be 1, 1, 1. It's the size. But 1 what? Well, actually, it can be whatever you want. It's 1 unit. It can be 1 meter, 1 kilometer. It's up to you. You can decide on that. So I created a geometry. I didn't have to provide each point. I just asked Three.js to create a box geometry, and here is the parameter of that box. All right, let's move forward. We're going to do that so many times with more details, with more options. If it's going too fast, do not worry. We're going to practice those a lot. And it will be so easy by the end of this course for you. So then I will create a material. By the way, you can see the way I code. So I use const because it's better for memory management. I don't put semicolon because why putting semicolons? But you can do whatever you want to do. All right, it's up to you. This is not the important part of this course. The important thing is to learn Three.js. All right, do whatever you want. So I will create the mesh basic material like that. And to provide parameters to a material, you have to provide an object because there can be like a lot of variables. And we are going to provide a color. And there is many ways of providing a color. You can put a string and write something like red. Yeah, you can do that. So this is great. Thank you to the guy that did that on Three.js. So it's so cool. You can put blue, cyan, purple, stuff like that. So it's great. You can also provide what we call hexadecimal. If you don't know about hexadecimal, well, you just put a hash and then you have to provide the red, green and blue value, and it goes from 0 to F. So it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. Kind of strange, but this is a way of doing. So if I want something red, it would be something like F, 0, 0. But usually when we provide an hexadecimal, we have to provide 6 values, 2 values for the red, 2 values for the green, and 2 values for the blue. So it will be FF, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is red. So it's a lot of red, the two F. F is F. No blue, no green, so it looks like that. All right, cool. Another way of doing that, which is the more accurate way actually, it's 0x like that. It's the same result because the mesh basic material we use something, I won't tell you what exactly now, but these are actually, I do tell you, it's the color class. It's a Three.js class. You don't have to do that. It will be handled automatically. And this class, you can send like so many types of color. It will just work. All right, let's not talk more about this because we are going to see that later. So we have a geometry, we have the material. We can save just to make sure that there is no new error. And we can finally create the mesh. So we can call it like cube or red cube or something like that. But because we will only have one mesh in our scene, I will just call it mesh. You can choose the name you want. And I will do new 3 mesh. I don't know what there is this thing showing up every time I try to write 3 something. Anyway, I will use the geometry and the material because remember, a mesh is composed of a geometry and a material. You have to provide those in this order. You can just check, as always, the example from the Three.js library. So you create a geometry, you create a material. So it's kind of exactly the same as we did. Not exactly the same, but very close. And you create this mesh. And at the end, you also have to add it to the scene. And it's something that I always forget. So maybe you will forget it every time. Maybe not if you never forget to add it to the scene. Well, you're better than me, clearly. But I always forget to add the mesh to the scene. And to add a mesh to the scene, you have to do scene, add, and provide the mesh. All right, we can save. Do we have something on the screen? No, we have to move a little forward. It's okay, it's not that much. I talked to you about creating 1 triangle in WebGL. It was 100 lines of code. Right now, you will see that it will fit on that screen. Almost. Next part is the camera. We have to provide a camera. Well, it's just to have a point of view. When we will do a render, it's like taking a photo of the scene, but where is the camera? You have to provide the camera position, orientation, and also parameters of this camera. So we have to create what we call a camera. It's not visible. You won't be able to see like a model in your scene. It's just a point of view. You can have many cameras in your scene, but when you do a render, it's from one camera. But you can do, no, I won't talk about this. So you can have multiple cameras, just like on a movie set, and switch between those cameras when you want. Usually we only have one camera because it's JavaScript. We can just move the camera instantaneously at another position. So usually we just have one camera. But if you want to create multiples, do it. And we can have different types of camera, which is kind of strange, but we're going to use the most simplest camera. It's not the simplest camera, but it's the most logical camera, just like if you have a real camera or using a smartphone or even your eye, it's a perspective camera, meaning that if an object is far, it will be small. If an object is close, it will be bigger. All right, this is the kind of default type of camera, and we are going to see that there are other types of camera. So let's go. We will do const camera equal new 3, and we're going to use the perspective camera like that. But we have to provide some parameters to this camera. First thing you should do is add it to the scene. Do not save and refresh. You might get an error because we need to provide parameters in here. But yeah, always add to the scene so that you don't forget, and then get back to the parameters and set those parameters. We need to provide 2 parameters. It's kind of hard. It's not that hard, but still we have to provide those parameters. The first parameter is the field of view. It's your view amplitude. Actually, it's not horizontal. You will have to provide the vertical field of view. It's more logical. Video games have been doing that. Most video games have been doing that. It's easier to handle the view when it's vertical field of view. So it's this vertical field of view. If you provide a small field of view, well, this is a huge field of view. It's like being able to see like on the side. You can see like far on the left, far on the right, and even more maybe. And if you provide a small value, it's like seeing through a scope. You know, you can see like very far, and things are really zoomed in. You have to choose between a very seeing very far, like in front of you, it's a small amplitude, or seeing everywhere. If you see everywhere, you will see that you get some kind of distortion, like on the side. See those? They look really strange. So it's up to you. I'm going to use, it's degrees, which is kind of strange, but it's easier for humans to talk in degrees. So I will use 75 degrees, which is a lot, actually. You will have some deformation on the side with this kind of value, but this way we can add objects maybe too much on the side and we'll be able to see it. Usually when I use cameras for WebGL experiences, I do 45, 55 maximum. I don't remember exactly, but not 75. Still, we are discovering, let's try 75. Okay, we also call this one FOV, so field of view. Let's move forward. The second argument, the second parameter has to be the aspect ratio. What's that? Well, the aspect ratio, it's just a calcul we have to do. It's the size, the width divided by the height. But wait, what size? Is it the size of the screen? Is it the size of the viewport? Is it the size of the future render we didn't create it yet? Well, at this point, we're going to decide on a size for the render we're going to create, the photo of the scene we're going to do. We will fix a size. It's going to be 800 for the width and 600 for the height. And later, we are going to make sure that the WebGL render will fill all the viewport. All right, the white part you can see here is the viewport. Maybe you would say like the window. It's not true because the window is more something like that. All right, it's like that. It's not the screen too because the screen is all this part. I'm talking about the viewport. It's the page. All right, it's the page in a way. So later we're going to do that. But for now, we are just going to provide a width and a height, which are going to be 800 and 600. We are going to put those inside a variable because we are going to use them later. So we do sizes and we provide a width of 800 and a height of 600 for now. And later we are going to play with those and resize those, change the values and resize the camera and stuff like that. Then we have to provide this aspect ratio, and the aspect ratio is the sizes width divided by the sizes height. Right? You just have to provide this value and the camera will be using this to render something. All right, let's move forward. Finally, we are almost there. Sorry, it's bigger than the screen. I was wrong on this one. We need to provide a renderer, and we are almost there. The renderer, it will do a render of your scene, but seen through your camera point of view. And that's all. The result will be drawn into a canvas. All right. A canvas, maybe you've already used a canvas. It's a HTML element, so it's an element you can put on your page, and you can draw in that canvas. You have functions, you have an API to draw inside that canvas, and you can draw that. You can do that if you want, but we are going to draw using WebGL, meaning that the triangles will be drawn into that canvas, and you will have nothing to do. It will be handled on its own, so it's really easy. So yeah, let's go. We can create that canvas, meaning that we can go to the HTML and create that canvas, or we can let the renderer do it. And once the renderer has created that canvas, we add it to the HTML. So it's up to you, but we are going to create it in the HTML, and well, it's up to you, but I recommend you to follow me on that. So to create a canvas where it's a canvas tag, you have to open it and close it. I'm quite sure of that, so be careful with that. And then we will provide a class. And I will use WebGL class. Why do I provide a class? You can put anything here. It's not that important. We will use it later in order to get it from the JavaScript. It's just to be able to get this element inside the JavaScript and provide it to this renderer. So let's go. I provide WebGL like that. Make sure you didn't do any mistake here. Let's move forward. We can create the renderer. So let's go. It's going to be renderer. And I do const renderer, and we have access to multiple renderer, and I will use the three WebGL renderer like that. And I will have to provide some options, and to provide just like we did for the material, because there can be like a lot of properties, parameters, sorry. We provide an object and we put some properties in this object. I use the WebGL renderer, and by the way, there is many other type of renderer, not many, but some other types of renderer. As we talked in the previous lesson, we have access to a SVG renderer, a CSS 3D renderer, and stuff like that. WebGL renderer 1, what's that? I don't know. And we are going to use the WebGL renderer. All right, let's focus on just doing WebGL renders. This is the main goal of this course. And then you have to provide the canvas. To do that, you set a property canvas. And in JavaScript, if you want to get an element, so we call that a DOM element, right? It's kind of HTML element, but HTML is the language. When the HTML is being handled by your brother, you get DOM element, D-O-M element. To get a DOM element from the JavaScript, from the HTML, so the DOM to the JavaScript, we use document query selector. And I'm going to do that. Well, maybe I will do it at the beginning. Yeah, just in case I will do it there. I will do canvas. So it's my canvas DOM element, so element. And I will do document, and I use query selector like that. Query selector will fetch element from the DOM, and you can provide a string. And in this string, if you want to get something, it's just like CSS selectors. If you want to get something which has a class WebGL, you can do point WebGL, and it will fetch the element which has this class there. Actually, I will put it with the renderer. I don't know why I put it there, so I will put it right here. And I saved this in that variable, and I can use that variable here. And you can test, you get something here. You can do like log canvas. Let's make sure that we have something. First, we have this here, which is great. And we also get something here. If you get null, it's probably that you did a mistake. Look at that. I get null and an error. Maybe I did something wrong here. Maybe I forgot to save the HTML. So fix that and get back to the lesson. So I made sure that everything is working fine. So it's WebGL like that. And by the way, in JavaScript, when the property is exactly the same name as the variable, you can just remove this part. It will do the same, all right? If the property name is exactly the same name as the variable name, well, you can just remove this part. It's kind of strange. I don't do it a lot, but you can do that. Anyway, we got something on the screen. We got something inside our page, so it's a good start. But still we need to move forward a little before having our cube. We want a cube. Remember, we have a cube in our scene. We want to see that cube before the end of the lesson. Hang on. First, as you can see, the size is wrong. I know that the camera knows some stuff about the size. Well, it doesn't know the size, but it has this aspect ratio. Still, we didn't provide this size to the renderer. So we have to resize the renderer. To resize the renderer, we use the renderer set size, and we provide this width and the height. And this is why we put those inside this object, because we can use them whenever we want. So it's going to be sizes width, comma, sizes height. And look at that, it's bigger. Great, let's move this downward a little, like that. So as you can see, it's bigger, so it's looking great. When you resize the renderer, it will resize the canvas. Look at the canvas, I can go to elements and inspect it. As you can see, my canvas has a 800 width and a 600 width. You don't have to provide the size and to resize the canvas on your own. The renderer will do it. Great. We are almost there. We have everything set. It's time to do our first render. So let's go. We will use that renderer and we will do renderer, render. It's not a render, sorry, with my French accent, it's probably pretty bad to hear. And the render, you have to provide a scene and a camera. It's like taking a photo. You take your camera, you will take a photo of what? Well, of your scene, and it will be seen from your camera point of view. So we provide the scene and the camera. Finger crossed, refresh, no, still nothing, but no error. There is a problem. Can you guess what we did wrong here? Try to figure out how is your scene right now. Where is your camera? Where is your cube? Well, everything is at the center of the scene, which is why you can't see anything. We are right now, so the camera is inside the cube. So maybe you would have thought that it should be like red everywhere. But one important thing to learn is that by default, you can see only one side of the triangles. So we can see the outside of a cube, but if we go inside the cube, well, we can't see anything because we cannot see the inside of the triangles that compose this cube, which is why we can't see anything right now. So let's fix that. We are going to move the camera backward a little. But how do we move objects? And I have like a full lesson about that in a 1 or 2 lessons, something like that. But right now we still want our cube, so we are just going to start slowly and just move the camera backward a little. To move objects, and it can be like anything object, it can be our cube, our camera, or anything else we can create, we can use the position, rotation, and scale properties. Because we just want to move backward, we are just going to use the position on the camera. We could have moved the cube, but instead let's move the camera. It's up to you. But let's move the camera. To move objects, we have to move them in X, Y, and Z axes. All right, it's how you position things in 3D. The X is going to be an axis in, I don't know, maybe it's going to be on my left, the Z is going to be up, and the Y is going to be to me, or maybe further. Those can be very different depending on the environment. If you are using Blender, if you are using another WebGL library, if you are using, I don't know, an editor, stuff like that, X, Y, and Z can be completely different. In 3GS, we consider the Y like the up, the X like the right, and the Z like toward us. And it's just the default axis. It can be really different. If I move my camera the opposite, well, the Z will be the opposite too. And if I move my camera like that, where the up will be the X. So it's just temporary decision that they made, but by default, it's the way 3GS works. So if we want to move the camera backward, well, we have to change the value on the Z, because by default, the Z is positive when going toward us, toward the camera. We are inside the cube, we want to go backward, we are going to increase the position on the Z axis to move backward. So let's do that. So let's go. I'm going to go to the camera, and after creating the camera, you can do it after adding to the scene, but I like to manage the object and then add it to the scene, but it's up to you. We are going to do camera. Position, we're going to talk a lot more about position, axis, stuff like that. Do not worry. But still, I want to see my cube. So camera position, Z, equal, how much? Well, maybe you can guess because you know the size of the cube. It's 111, 1 watt, 1 unit, 1 meter. It's up to you. Well, let's move backward of 3 units because 3GS. Okay. And as you can see, we have a square. Wasn't it supposed to be a cube? Well, do not worry, it's a cube. Come on, bonus. We'll move it a little on the right, let's say 2, and look at that. Yes, it looks like a cube. Maybe on the top. Yes, that's a cube. All right, let's move back in front of the cube like that. So yes, I know it's a square, but do not worry, it's just because we are perfectly aligned with the cube and we can only see one face of that cube, which looks like a square. And that's all for the lesson. You did your first render, so congratulations, you did it. It's the start of a huge journey. We need to animate, add more things, add light support, stuff like that, shadows. There is a lot coming, but still you did it. You did your first render. As you can see, that's not much. Just few lines of code, and you probably understood everything we did here. It's maybe kind of blurry. Do not worry, we are going to practice. In the next lesson, lessons, we are going to talk more about position, rotation, scale. We are going to animate stuff because right now we are just taking one picture, so we need to do more and make the canvas fit the viewport later too. So right now we have a 800 by 600. I want my canvas to fill the whole viewport, and if I resize it with fit it too, and a way of going full screen, stuff like that. So we have many things to do, and I will see you in the next lesson.